Right now, right now. 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 Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We gotta add a little addendum to the show map today, and shall we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. They always have been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your week daily morning show where we bring you the latest in everything Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the major drop that is occurring right now on Bitcoin. As you know, Bitcoin has rallied all the way to a new yearly high of $53,000 as of the last 48 hours. But recently, Bitcoin has broken bearish out of a major symmetrical triangle pattern, indicating new lows may be right around the corner. Over the course of this week thus far, ever since Monday, we've been talking about how a drop down to $48,000 is in the cards for Bitcoin, and today we're going to talk about why that drop may be starting right now. If you're trying to figure out where Bitcoin is going next and when the best times are to buy Bitcoin and invest in Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies in this space for the impending bull market, then you have found the right stream. Welcome. My name is Jeb McAfee. I've been working in the cryptocurrency space for almost 7 years now. I love what I do, and I love teaching you guys how to get control over your life, specifically over your financial life, when we call that control financial sovereignty. Financial sovereignty is the state of having control over, you guessed it, your finances rather than them controlling you. Because you see, your money can tell you what to do, or you can tell your money what to do. And I have found that your life is going to be much more pleasurable. It's going to be much more peaceful and enjoyable if you are the one that is calling the shots and you have the wisdom to know how to do so properly. Let's read some chat. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get started. Today, we've got Crypto Nebs coming in first. Said, good morning, Jeb. Just spotted when you draw fib from pandemic low to all-time high on ADA. Magic happens. All right, well, we will look at that here in a little bit. Thank you for the tip. Chris Moe in chat. RJ's in chat. Crypto Ohio's in chat. The French Toast Breakfast Club said, aloha. Aloha to you as well. Micah Mann is in chat. Good morning, Jeb. What's the news today? We will be getting into that a little bit later. Crypto Nebs again. Dr. Ada's daddy said, boom dia. Bomb dia? I don't know what that meant. Dia means day. What does bomb mean? Well, you're going to have to tell me. Joe Bollier's in chat. Satchet. Jason's in chat saying, morning. Crypto doesn't just go up? No. In fact, most of the time it's going down. And the reason for that is because about 75% of the time, Bitcoin's on a correction. Because when it rallies so fast that over the course of 10 years, it's still massively up. But as, goodness, not Charlie Lee. Charlie, from Funstrat. I'm forgetting his name. Anyway, anybody can help me remember his name. Anyway, the fella from Funstrat once pointed out that if you remove the 10 most profitable days from Bitcoin, Tom Lee, that's his name, Thomas Lee. As Thomas Lee once pointed out, if you take out the 10 most profitable days at any year on Bitcoin, then every year so far Bitcoin has been negative. Obviously, it hasn't been negative, but if you remove the 10 most profitable days, then Bitcoin's actually across the board in a downtrend. So, more often than not, time-wise, Bitcoin's actually going down. DJ Morales is in chat. Herman Barbara's in chat. Philippe Dakahuna is in chat. Said, aloha from Bulgaria. Shout out to you. Grand Roofing Incorporated is here. Good to see you, my friend. Valentin Zaragoza is in chat. Said, sup, Kansas City. David, let me see if I can get this right. Mastro Giacomo. Mastro Giacomo? I'm going to guess that's it. I'm not sure. You'll have to tell me. Queen's in chat. Joey Van Englenberg, Dax Brody, and everybody else. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in from all around the world. Dr. Ada's daddy said, you are loved, created by love, for the sake of showing love. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Isn't that just amazing? Isn't that just amazing that the whole world that we live in, the entirety of creation, was all created just so that we could be in relationship with each other and with the Father that made all of it? The Lord by wisdom hath founded the earth, and by his understanding hath he established the heavens. By his knowledge the depths are broken up, and the clouds drop down the dew. That'll be the verse for today. That is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 19 and 20. He created the whole world just so we could be in relationship with him. So let's go ahead and go forth and do that and reap the rewards thereof. Let's get started. Bitcoin's trading at $50,931, down 1.69% over the last 7 days. And to show you exactly what I mean on Bitcoin, there has been a considerable drop on Bitcoin over the course of the last 8 hours. Bitcoin was trading sideways in a symmetrical triangle pattern here, but Bitcoin has finally made a decision. Yesterday, when we were live, Bitcoin was in the process of breaking bearish out of this symmetrical triangle pattern. And this is a little bit like... what kind of weird analogy will I draw here? Okay, I've got an analogy for you. Think about if you, like, in the movies, if you, like, tie up a crocodile, what do? You tie up an alligator, what do? They just kind of shake around like they're selling used cars or something, and then they kind of burst out of it, right? You know, I'm watching the third here. This is probably where I got the idea from. Watching the third season of The Mandalorian. In the first episode of the third season, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's an event kind of like that, and the, you know, does the roll, whoosh, just kind of throws itself out, breaks out. And that's kind of what Bitcoin was doing right here. It was saying, oh, I feel really claustrophobic, but Bitcoin's really strong, so boom! And then that's what happens. We see Bitcoin just explode to the upside, explode to the downside. Within 8 hours, we set a new higher high, a new lower low at the same time, indicating a huge return to volatility. For anybody who has been through the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, you will know that we have a cyclical nature in markets, and part of that cyclical nature of markets means that we move from high volatility to low volatility. If we look out on the 8-hour chart, will probably be the best place to see it. You'll be able to see that the volatility got very, very tight to the point where we had a squeeze in volatility. And Bitcoin had almost no volatility left. And when you get to this point of exceptionally low volatility, typically speaking, you are going to have an explosion of volatility, which is why on Monday I said within the next week, you're going to see a major volatile movement come to Bitcoin. Within 36 hours, we saw a major volatile movement to the upside and to the downside. This is all technical analysis at work. I want none of the glory or credit for it, but I will just say this, technical analysis works. And if you want to learn more about technical analysis, then make sure to go to the first link in the, well, not the first link, but go to the link in the description box down below and sign up for CT2A right now, because if you sign up for CT2A right now using coupon code 20OFF, you'll be getting access to CT2A for 20% off. So make sure that you go sign up for CT2A with the link in the description box down below. Use coupon code 20OFF, 20OFF, and get access to over 50 videos teaching you how to invest profitably in the cryptocurrency space. All right, let's continue. With that high volatility moving into with that low volatility moving into high volatility, we had a return of, well, volatility. And Bitcoin very much needed a huge movement to come, and that's what we're seeing now. Unfortunately, for everyone who was hoping that Bitcoin would just skyrocket straight to all-time high, that's not what's happening. Bitcoin is currently falling to the downside. We had a sell signal come in right here. We saw the trend catcher confirmed it right here as we broke bearish below this uptrending level of support, and then we dropped down into the take profit. And we can even see down here on the CryptoJeb indicator that on the CryptoJeb oscillator that CJO originally predicted this drop at the same time that that this happened. Then we also predicted the upswing. So this is these look like conflicting signals. They're not, but you can see the bullish and bearish divergence, bear divergence, bull divergence. The bear divergence called this correction. The bull divergence called this rally to the upside. And then, of course, the market started moving to the downside again, which could be seen right here with the momentum shift. If any of you guys don't have the CryptoJeb oscillator, I would highly recommend that you sign up for LuxAlgo by going to luxalgo.com/Jeb. And then you can sign up for any of the paid plans over there on LuxAlgo, and you'll get access to the CryptoJeb oscillator as an add-on. That's an indicator we made in partnership with LuxAlgo, in case you haven't heard about that yet. But LuxAlgo and CJO also were both predicting a drop on Bitcoin. You can see that the Bitcoin, that LuxAlgo had a price target sitting down here between 50,900 and 50,100. That is exactly where Bitcoin has moved towards. And if you need that to be a little bit more obvious, you can actually see that all the way back here, when Bitcoin first came out with this on the next candlestick, you can see right here, this is exactly how this take profit showed up. So this is a predictive movement, guys. LuxAlgo predicted this, and it got it right. LuxAlgo predicted that we dropped down to between 50,100 and 50,900 in our first and our second take profit on this sell signal. Sell signal wasn't even confirmed yet, but we dropped down there one time. the very next candlestick, the next hour. Lux Algo makes the prediction, next hour we hit it. Then we rally forward, the take profit stays there, and instead of updating and having a new buy signal, Lux Algo keeps its posture. We have the sell signal confirm into the take profit being red, and then we have a confirmed sell signal at that point. That's when you would actually enter into a trade on this, is after you get confirmation of the sell signal via the trend catcher, which shows up right here. And then you can see about halfway through the printing of this candlestick, we probably would have been around 51,400. We see the trend catcher turn red, do a little bit of future analysis, and then you run down here into the take profit again. So Lux Algo called this very nicely, and even these two shorter term movements, CJO called this correction, then called the rally back up. And then also, if you read the momentum over here, it was definitely calling for a correction here. As soon as we fell over, the momentum shifted in the bearish direction. You could see that if we're so close to the end of the symmetrical triangle pattern, that you're probably going to have the bearish breakout if the momentum is in the bearish direction, because a breakout has to happen. And whoever is currently in charge is more than likely going to be the one that leads the market. All right, so Lux Algo, Crypto Jeb Oscillator, working very well on this. On this movement. But the question now becomes is, where do we go next? Let's move out to the 4-hourly chart and get a little bit more context here on Bitcoin, because something I want you to see is that we actually have a sell signal on the 4-hourly chart for Bitcoin that is yet to be confirmed by Trend Catcher. Trend Catcher has not confirmed this, but should Trend Catcher confirm this, potentially by Bitcoin dropping down to around 50,500 or even a little bit lower, then we would very likely there would very likely be a confirmed sell signal, which would send Bitcoin back down to a take profit between $48,500 and $50,000. If you'll remember, that is the exact level that we've been saying Bitcoin will likely go towards over the course of the last week. Ever since Monday, which, if you'll remember, we did Monday stream on right around here. This is right where we were on Monday. No, I'm sorry, that's Sunday. Move forward a few candles. Right here, a couple of candlesticks further, one more. Ever since right here, when we did our stream on Monday, we've been saying, look, guys, momentum's running out. You can see it on CJO. You can see the momentum line coming down right here. You can even see it out on the daily chart, for example. It's starting to curve over at this point in time on Monday when we were discussing all of this. And then if you run it forward, you can see that the time ever since then has been relatively bearish. So far, we're on it. The prediction from Monday has been a drop down to $40,500, down to $50,000, and a big part of the reason for that has to do with the golden pocket that is set by the 61.8 and the 0.65 Fibonacci retracement level from all-time high to bear market bottom. So those levels are as follows. You draw Fibonacci from the all-time high, drop it back down to the zero level, then you get this golden pocket right here between $48,000 and $50,000. We've been anticipating that Bitcoin is going to go back and backtest this zone. After it backtests that zone, it will likely bounce and then move towards all-time high. I think that this will be a short drop. I'm not expecting this to be a massive crash. It could. Look, guys, we had price targets down as low as 32.5. Bitcoin last bull market cycle spent 500 days in this exact correction. When you line it up with the market structure, this time we spent 32 days in this correction. So more correction could come. Bitcoin could drop down to like 38. It's possible. All right. Right now, the prediction is that we drop down to 48, and then where we go from there is something that we need more information when that happens to ascertain. But in the short term, I think that Bitcoin is going to drop down into the $48,000 range, 48 to 50. We've already pretty much made it there, so it's possible this is over, but I don't quite think it is. We do have a bearish engulfing candlestick formation out here on the daily chart, green followed by red. It's basically a green spinning top. Yesterday, indicating indecision. We've actually had several spinning tops. We've got a spinning top right here, a spinning top right here, and a spinning top right there, all indicating a lot of indecision. It almost looks like a bit of a Bart Simpson pattern, just green candlesticks, sideways trading, and then a crash right there. If you look at CJO, you can see the momentum is very strongly shifting in the direction of the bears. The bulls are rapidly running out of momentum. And even on the daily chart, if you look at Lux Algo, we're getting close to that trend catcher as well. We got very close to the take profit, and we will probably go to the take profit. And I don't actually think that we will drop far enough to turn this into a sell signal on Lux Algo. I think we're going to drop down to the $48,000 to $50,000 range. So that's where I think we're going, and that has to do with all of the technical analysis that we are doing on Bitcoin. But I don't think we're going to stay down there. Instead, I think Bitcoin is going to drop down into the $48,000 to $50,000 range, and then from there, it will go through a major bounce and rally and move farther to the upside. I think that Bitcoin will likely be trading at or above all-time high in the next 2 to 4 months. And I'm very excited to bring you guys that update. All right. Let's continue reading chat here. Shadrach Frost said, hashtag CT2A for the win. Invest in your education. Absolutely, guys. If you have not signed up for the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, you're missing out, guys. If you sign up for CT2A, you're going to be getting access to a huge course where we teach thousands of students all the time how to invest in cryptocurrency markets by primarily doing technical analysis on them. The TA that you just saw me do helps us to understand where Bitcoin is going to go next, which helps us in the following ways. It helps us to understand where we should put entries. It helps us to understand what markets we should buy in the first place. It helps us to understand how we should dollar cost average into those markets. It helps us to understand how we ought to buy the market with lump sums. If we come into the market and if we come into CT2A and we pick out some of these videos, for example, a game of statistics and probabilities, we're going to learn that it's not about one trade. It's not about one singular event. It's about the overarching event. We've got 1,000 trades. Are we winning 60 or 70% of them? It's not about did we win one. It's about did we win 60 to 70% of the trades. On our predictions, are we getting 55, 60, 70% of them right, etc.? How to plan and execute profitable trades. This is a timeless video that people have been watching for years, and they love it because it is a very simple strategy to plan and execute profitable trades. You're probably wondering how to do that. This is your source. Math psychology. Something that people don't realize is that the markets are simply what I call the manifestation of the machinations of the traders and the investors. So whatever the people that are investing and working in the market think, that they do, and they make a trade. And so if you look at a price action chart, it's almost a collective consciousness. It's almost like a hive mind of all of the traders and the investors that are operating in it. So if you look at, this is really cool. If you look at a price action chart, it's like you're peeling back the face of the market and looking directly at the brain of the whole organism. It's so cool. It is so neat when you figure out that that's what a price action chart is. That's what we teach you in the market sentiment and the math psychology videos. If you want more insight like that to really understand at a deep level how this market works, the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy is the place to go. Join our thousands of students that are learning every single day how to become better technical analysts, and also do it all risk-free with a money back refund guarantee. That's what I was trying to say. Check it out with the link in the description box down below. Use coupon code 20OFF, 20OFF, to get 20% off at checkout. We're running that for a very short time. All right. Red X asked a great question. Please, can you explain market cap / circulating supply, compare 2021 to now for AVAX, possible all-time high? I don't quite understand it. That would be awesome. Love to do that. I love taking questions from you guys. That's actually my favorite part of the entire stream. All right, so we're going to use Avalanche, and Avalanche is a good example because I was actually just looking at this with a financial coaching client recently. I was using it as an example of a project that you really need to pay attention to this with. So Avalanche has gone through a considerable amount of inflation ever since the last bull market. And there are two different charts here on CoinMarketCap that you can look at. You can look at the price action chart, and you can look at the market cap chart. If you look at the market cap chart, the market cap of AVAX is currently 13.5 billion. All-time high is 30 billion. So you can say that we're roughly about 47% retraced to all-time high, something to that effect. If you look at the price action chart, you can see that all-time high is $134, but it's currently at $36.90, which means that it's only about 25% retraced to all-time high. What chart should you look at? You should look at the market cap chart, because the market capitalization chart is like the master, if you will. And to explain that, I have to explain a kind of a triangle math problem that comes up into cryptocurrency, and it's a little bit like FMA. Yeah, FMA. Who remembers FMA or FAM? I guess you could say that. Who remembers math? Math? We're doing math? Yeah, math. FMA. FAM, math, whatever you want to call it. Force, mass, acceleration, right? Force times mass, accelerate. Exactly. Okay. Let's just look up F equals ma. Who remembers FMA? Who remembers it? We're going to use this Newton's second law. Here you go. Force equals mass times acceleration, right? And so if you want the force, then you multiply the mass and the acceleration. But if you want the mass, then you can divide the force times the acceleration. I don't know. Here's the triangle. There you go. Boom. If you want the force, multiply the mass times the acceleration. If you want the mass, divide the force by the acceleration. If you want the acceleration, divide the force by the mass. Right? That's how you, if you have two parts of the equation, then you can get the third part of the equation. And the same exact triangle exists in market capitalization, except instead of force, mass, and acceleration, you have price, circulating supply, and market capitalization. If you have the price and you have the circulating supply, then you multiply them together and you get the market cap. So if you multiply, and for sake of argument, and just for the teaching example, I will actually do this. If you multiply the price for Avalanche, for example, $36.87, and you multiply that by the circulating supply, which is 367,716,000, then you're going to get a number. 100,000 million billion. 13,544 million. Well, that number sounds familiar. Why? Because it's the market cap. It's right there. All right, if you multiply the price times the circulating supply, you get the market cap. The issue with that is that the circulating supply is a independent variable as well as the price. So if you move the price or the circulating supply, then you change the market cap. That means that the market cap is the actual derivative. So if you wanted to make a math problem for this, you would say market cap equals price times circulating supply. If you change the price or you change the circulating supply, you will change the market cap. And the issue with Avalanche and many other cryptocurrencies is that the circulating supply is not a fixed number. It is increasing, which means that without changing the price, you increase the market cap, which means that it is deflationary. I know that was a little complicated, but I will make sure that you understand it simply. If the circulating supply is going up, then it is an inflationary asset. And so if you're trying to figure out whether your altcoin has gone back to all-time high, it is wiser in my book to look at the market cap rather than the price. Avalanche going back to $134 with the amount of circulating supply that's been released into the ecosystem would actually mean that it has doubled its previous market capitalization. So when you're trying to figure out, should I be exiting coins? When should I get out? I recommend taking at least some profits when you get back to all-time high. We're talking market cap all-time high because that is the actual end product. That is what we need to pay attention to, is the market capitalization, because it is the dependent variable which is built out of the two independent variables, the circulating supply and the price. You cannot change the market capitalization without changing the price and the circulating supply. So instead of looking at the price, which is actually an independent variable, it can be changed by market forces, you need to look at the market capitalization, which is price times circulating supply. Hopefully that made sense. Maybe it made no sense at all. I know I get really technical sometimes. In short, the takeaway, I showed you my work, right? But here's your answer. The answer is look at the market cap, not just the price. But I'd like for you to understand. So hopefully that was helpful to some people. The reason that this is significant is because if you look at the price of, say, Solana, you look at the market cap, it's actually much closer to its all-time high on market cap than it is on price. And so we need to keep this in mind because the whole market's actually farther, the whole market is actually farther towards all-time high than a lot of times we think it is. We're at 103 on Solana right now in price. We're at 258's the all-time high. We're 40% of the way retraced to all-time high on price, but on market cap, we're actually over half of the way there. Halfway. You've heard that song before, right? That's where we are. We're halfway there. We're up at $45 billion in market cap. All-time high market cap is $80 billion. So we're actually about 55% of the way there on market cap, only about 40% of the way there on price, which means that to get to all-time high on market cap, Solana only needs to go to about $200 because there's been so much dilution. The reason for this is because of the way the proof of stake works. When you have a cryptographic hashing function, in other words, a proof of something algorithm, proof of stake, proof of work, whatever it is, when you have a validation protocol, there's a phrase I'm looking for. When you have a consensus mechanism, that's the word I was trying to find. When you have a consensus mechanism, the people that are doing the consensus have to get paid, or else they won't do the consensus. And so if you have proof of work, then they are paid on Bitcoin anyway through fees and through block rewards, which is inflationary. But Bitcoin has it set up with halvings where the block rewards get cut in half every 4 years, so we don't just inflate away like we're in up or something. On proof of stake, you also have quote-unquote block rewards, except you can set up the system where there is no end to how many block rewards you're going to issue, which means that you are able to have less fees. But you have to pay the price somewhere because the validators still have to get paid, and so you pay the price by having an inflationary asset. That's why Solana has no maximum supply. It's infinite. There are currently 440 million Solana in circulation. It says total supply 570, but that can change at any point. Solana is quite quite centralized based on the way that it is developed. So that can change. A large amount of supply can come in at any point, and it will remain inflationary just like your fiat currencies, which is one of my issues with a lot of the altcoins. Ethereum is the exact same way. If you look at price on the all-time chart, look at price, all-time high, $5,000, right? We know that. It's currently at $3,000. For 60% of the way there. On market, and there has not been a lot of inflation on Ethereum, I will say that, and that's nice. Market cap all-time high of 560 billion. We're currently at about 350 billion. So while we do have an infinite max supply on, which basically means that there is no max supply, since we have an infinite supply on Ethereum, it is inflationary also. Now, somebody in chat asked about Cardano. Cardano is a little bit different, and this is one of the reasons I like Cardano. Cardano, unlike those other protocols, does not have an infinite supply. It actually does have a fixed maximum supply of 45 billion Cardano. 36.6 million have already been issued, which means that there is an actual percentage of the circulating supply to the total supply, to the maximum supply that will ever be released. And it's already gone through 78.8% of the inflation that it will ever go through, which means that this discrepancy between price and market cap is far less apparent. The market cap and the price action chart look almost identical on Cardano because of that fact. There's not much inflation. And Cardano's consensus mechanism doesn't work on having to endlessly print coins like we're the U.S. Federal Reserve or something, which is one of the reasons why I like Cardano. Unlike Solana, it does have a fixed limit on how many will ever be issued. You can go down here on any one of your favorite cryptocurrencies, and most of them, unfortunately, have abandoned the idea that Bitcoin had of having a fixed max supply at 21 million. The max supply on Polkadot, for example, is infinite. In other words, there is no max supply. And you know, there are protocols that do have a total max supply. Polygon is one of them. Polygon is another great protocol, and that's one of the reasons I like them, is they do have a max supply at 10 billion. 9.6 have already been issued, which means Polygon is about as stable as Bitcoin when it comes to inflation hardening. So there's my spiel. Great question. Forgot who asked that. Red X asked originally, if you're tuning in the last couple of minutes, please can you explain market cap over circulating supply, compare 2021 to now for AVAX, possible ATH? I don't quite understand it. Hopefully that was helpful. In short, it is always, in my opinion, a point in favor of a cryptocurrency if it has a fixed maximum supply. When crypto is high like this is when you need to be scared and looking for selling. My opinion is that when we start getting towards all-time high, take some profits, and then we can kind of ladder out. Dollar cost average till the all-time high, market cap all-time high, not price, and then flip the switch and start dollar cost averaging out once you pass the market cap all-time high. Slowly at first, and then quicker as you get higher. But I like to run everything based on a system. Captain Swanky Pants in chat, that's an awesome name, said Oscillator is gorgeous. Nice work, Jeb. Thank you so much. Really appreciate all of the support you guys have shown for the Crypto Jeb Oscillator. I'm really, really, really stoked for it. Right down here, it's awesome. I love this indicator. I love it so much. Check out this bear signal right here. Called this whole downtrend. Absolutely nailed it. If you guys want to get access to the Crypto Jeb Oscillator, check this out. Bear signal. It's a bearish divergence on the strength of the bulls and the bears. Comes in right here. It was like another 5 or 6 days until the actual premium Lux Algo indicator gave you the indication. Sometimes Lux Algo beats CGO, sometimes CGO beats Lux Algo. They both work great in tandem. But CGO does have the ability, the Crypto Jeb Oscillator does have the ability to actually beat the mainline Lux Algo indicator with good signals, which is really great. And you get both of them if you go to the luxalgo.com/Jeb and sign up today. And we are also working on a new fancy landing page over there, so make sure to stay tuned for that. I'm not exactly sure when that's going to be up, but it is coming, and I can't wait for it. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Let's read some chat. Smash the likes. ETC has a max supply. What's your thoughts on that? I think that my issue with Ethereum Classic does not have to do with max supply. It has to do with adoption. It does have a max supply, but part of the reason for that is because it was hard forked. Goodness gracious, how many years ago was it now? Yeah, it was hard forked before I got into the space. Problem that I have with ETH Classic is the amount of adoption. I mean, you're trying to compete with the actual Ethereum. It's even got the same name. It's and to some degree that can work. I mean, Burger King exists, right? You know what I'm talking about? Did you know that when Burger King was founded, the people that founded Burger King would go into McDonald's with tape measures and they'd measure how far apart the seats were? They'd literally just carbon copied it. And it succeeded. It worked. So listen, it's a copy. It'll always be second fiddle to McDonald's. It basically always has been in market cap. But it can work. And so ETH Classic probably will always be somewhat relevant, but I don't think it'll ever be the most relevant. Isn't ETH deflationary because of the burn, Crypto Jeb? To a large degree, I believe it is. You'd have to kind of check the numbers, but I do believe that ETH is about stable. And that's what I was saying. Ethereum does have that max supply, that unlimited supply. But as I mentioned, Ethereum, unlike some of these other projects, its market cap and its price action chart almost look identical. And that is because of the burn. You see, they look very, very similar. Even though it does not have a max supply, they look very, very, very similar because it's about balanced out. Unlike Solana and some of these other cryptocurrencies where you and AVAX, where you can absolutely tell the difference between the price action and the market cap chart. See the difference there? See how much bigger this second rally looks on the market cap chart? That's because of inflation. I don't know about you, but one of the reasons I came to cryptocurrency is to get away from inflation. Now, Solana's got a lot of points in its favor, and I am a fan of Solana if they can quit going down, but I've got to be fair. Jeff, if you had $6,000 to invest, how would you divest that into altcoins? First and foremost, I would have so there's a lot of things I would do. First and foremost, I would make sure that I had a way of generating more money every month to put into the market, not just a lump sum. With the lump sum, I would separate it out into 12 $500 rounds of investment, so you can dollar cost average over the course of 3 months while you find another way to get $500 a week to put into the market, or less if you can, and that's okay. $2,000 a month, a lot of money. I would separate it out into 12 $500 payments into the market. I would also, before you do that, make sure that you are living below your means and you're not like running into credit card debt every month because you can't afford to live your lifestyle. I would make sure that you are not in a high yield, high interest account. Let's say you got like a just crazy car loan, like a ridiculous car loan. If you got $5,000 of credit card debt, right? If you got some ridiculous credit card debt or something, I would recommend getting rid of some of that first, or at least getting on a written plan to get out of it. If the personal finances are where they ought to be, then I would recommend splitting it up into 12 payments over the course of 3 months. That gives you $500 a week. Every Friday you invest that, and then you pick which markets, which assets you're going to put that into, which is your actual question. I would put a considerable amount of it, because it's $6,000, into, I would go with a very broad-based strategy. What I recommend for people when they are just getting started is, and $6,000 is a kind of a starter amount, and that's okay. That's all right. I would recommend going about 30, 40, 30. That's 30% into big caps, Bitcoin, ETH. You can put 15 and 15, you put 20, 10, 10, 20, whatever it is, about 30% into big caps, 40% into medium caps. That's everything below Ethereum, above top 50, and about 30% outside of that. You got $500 a week. Try and find about 5 cryptocurrencies that you consider medium caps, 5 that you consider small caps that you believe in. Great medium caps include Ethereum. Well, not Ethereum, it's a big cap. Include Solana, XRP, Cardano, Polygon's a great one, Internet Computer. There you go. Maybe that's your 5 medium caps. 5 small caps, and you can adjust the number. VeChain's a great one. I really love VeChain. That's a bit of a medium cap, but Arbitrum, I think, is undervalued right now. Let's see. Beam is doing very well. Helium, doing very well. Aave and BitGet token, I think they'll do well. Starknet, I think, has some potential. It's very relatively new, but Quant has a lot of potential. Let's see. So that's kind of the way you would do that. You just split it up and put it into projects that you believe in, that have a track record. And if they don't have a track record because they're new, then what's the value proposition? Does it make sense? Do they have the team to do it? Is it realistic for them to go and do what they say they're going to do? There you go. This market cap info is so valuable. Thanks for sharing. Of course, Chris Mo. I'm glad that it is helpful. In fact, I think I might make a video on that. I'm going to take a note of that live on air. I'm going to take a note of that because I think I'm going to make a video on just that in the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, because that is a form of technical analysis, is market cap analysis. So I'm going to, because I'm actually working on putting new content into CT2A right now. We just shot our first video. I'm working on a few more. But I think I'm actually going to make that a video in CT2A because that needs to be explained. So I am going to take a note of that right now, actually. So let's read some more chat. Let's see, where's my notebook? Here it is. All right, took a note of that. That's likely going to be a video in the course coming up. So thank you guys for that idea. Nico said, thanks, Jeb. You actually care, bro. I try to, guys. I don't know everything, and I ain't perfect, but I do care. I can at least promise you that. I do care. I do care about you being successful because I have been, guys, I've been through the ringer in my life, and you have too. You know how it is. Jason Zold said, how much money have you made from Crypto Jeb? Well, it's in the 7 figures. I'll put it that way. I've made a lot of money in my life. I've also been very stupid with a lot of it. And so I've had to learn a lot of hard lessons. A lot of hard lessons that I am looking forward to teaching on as time goes on. I will say I'm probably in the best position financially that I've ever been in my life from a perspective of wisdom, from a perspective of, sure, finances, but also from a perspective of, guys, I made a lot of mistakes. I mean, I kind of got cursed a little bit. I made so much money just kind of all of a sudden, and I didn't know what to do with it. I tell you what, I was stupid with a lot of it. I was very, very dumb with the first millions that I made. I was very stupid with it. And a lot of it was I had a caring heart. I was trying to be generous. And a lot of it was, giving money to something I've learned. Because I do financial coaching now. And I do financial coaching for free sometimes for people. I do it for one person at a time. Right now I have one person I'm helping. But something I've realized is that I don't like to give people cash whenever I don't know what the finances are. Because there's a lot of times I've given money away and I have poured money into a barrel that has a hole in the bottom. And so I realized that if I can get very good at teaching people how to manage their personal finances by first doing a great job at managing our personal finances and building a house that people want to emulate, then that gives me the ability to be radically generous with people and give them thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Again, but I first have to be able to see how people's finances are working. Where's the money going? The way I think about it is if somebody's, strung out on drugs or they're addicted to cigarettes or they're spending money on something they shouldn't be and they're broke, then if I give you $10 for something that might be a noble cause, then all I did is I just offset $10 in their budget to go and buy drugs with or cigarettes or something that they should not be spending money on because they're broke. So when I try and help people, I am very quick to just write a $1,000 check to people. I have handed people thousands of dollars, just boom, here you go. So many times in my life. I bought people cars. I've sent people across the country. I've done so many things with my money. I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying that what I've realized is that before I can, in good conscience, and by being a faithful steward of God's money, which he has entrusted me with, I have to be able to teach people how to actually manage the money so that I don't just give them a massive lump sum of cash and then it ruin them. Because I'll tell you what, one of the things that hurt me the most in my life was making a bunch of money and not knowing how to manage it. And it kind of screwed me over. Now, I've learned a lot now. I'm way better at it now. But I'm talking 3, 4, 5 years ago. I made some mistakes. Not like sinful mistakes, not illegal mistakes, nothing like that. I mean, I've never done drugs. I'm not on any of that. I mean, none of that. I didn't go out and buy flashy cars, but just little things here and there where you have little holes in the water tower that is your money. And before you know it, if you don't have a sound wisdom, then you end up making stupid mistakes with it. So to answer your question, I've made millions of dollars in my career, and I've been stupid with a good bit of it. But I'm not doing that anymore, and I've learned how to live on a budget and live on less than we make and get out of debt and be radically generous and make wise investments and do your research and all these different things and be good with relationships. I've learned all of these things because of the mistakes I've made. And as the great Dave Ramsey once said, having a successful life does not mean you don't make mistakes. It just means that you are standing on top of your mistakes instead of being buried underneath them. And sometimes when you're buried underneath your mistakes, you have to spend some time digging through the mistakes to get back up on top of them. And that's always a fun ride. Joe Casually Aeon, donated $2, said, Fed says people are in financial trouble, affects crypto. Yeah, so the Fed realizes, the hard thing is I have to actually figure out what you're talking about because the Fed is always saying this. Like, they're saying that a lot right now. There's something coming from Reuters. You'll have to reference the exact article, and I'm sorry that I don't know exactly which one you're talking about because there have been Fed governors and Jerome Powell and all kinds of people coming out over the last several months saying, hey, guys, we're in trouble. We keep this up, we are in trouble. But in general, yes, the Federal Reserve is not very confident in the United States economy, and that is a very, very, very difficult reality that we have to contend with. And the reason that is because of debt. I said it. The reason that is because of debt. It all stems back to that. It stems back to the 5 rules of being successful with money. The Bible teaches exactly 5 things that you should do with money, and you will be successful with money. Do you want to hear them? Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you anyway. Here are the 5 things you have to do to be successful with money. And then we can use these 5 things and say, is the United States government doing any of these correctly? Number 1, you need to have a written budget. You need to have a plan for where your money is going to go. I'm paraphrasing. I ought to memorize this verse because it's very important. But Jesus essentially says that it is a fool that sets out to build a tower, and he doesn't count up the cost, so he gets halfway up building the tower, and he runs out of money, so he can't finish the thing. And you know what everybody does? They look at him, and they start laughing at him and mocking him because you fool. You didn't know whether you had enough money to finish it because he didn't sit down and count the cost. That's the phrasing, count the cost. It's called a budget. It's called a plan for where your money goes to make sure you have enough money to get to where you need to go. Number 1 thing that you have to do to be successful with money is you need to have a written plan. Part of that is having a budget. Part of that is having goals. Part of that is saying, hey, once we get to this, then we do this. If we get X, then we do Y. If we make $10,000 this month in profit or make $10,000 this year in profit, then we'll spend $1,000 on a trip. We'll invest $3,000 of it. Be generous with $5,000 of it. Having a written plan, having a budget, that's number 1. Number 2, you get out of debt. When you're in debt, the debt holder is in control of you rather than you being in control of yourself. They are in control of you because they are in control of an asset which is probably very important in your life. Right? If you have a mortgage, you don't own that house. It might say legally you own that house, but the bank owns that house because they're the one that has the loan. They're the lien holder. The lien holder has the power. By the way, not just spiritually, but also legally. And also morally. It's their money. You borrowed it. It's not your money. It's their money. At least however much is on the loan. The third thing that you have to do to be successful with money is you have to live on less than you make. How do you do that? Well, you have a written plan and you get out of debt. If you make $7,000 a month and you're spending $9,000 a month, you are outside of the will of God for your finances unless there's something very serious going on. All right, generally speaking, at least for 9 out of 10 months, you need to be living on less than you make. That's impossible, Jeb. Let me show you a chart of Toyota Motor Company. I want to show you a chart that will prove that this is possible. I got to find it. I haven't looked at this chart in a very long time. And I don't know if I will be able to find it because it's in a book. It's called The Toyota Way. Toyota is one of the most well-run companies on planet Earth. And if you study the Toyota Way and Hoshin Kanri and Kaizen and all the ways that the company is run, then you will see that it is a very profitable company. This is the best I'm going to be able to do. This only goes back to 1997, but this chart actually goes back to the 50s. There is 1 year in the last about 75 years that Toyota has not turned a profit. In other words, that they did not live on less than they made. 1 year. Everybody says, oh, Toyota's boring. They're also one of the most powerful, largest companies on the planet. In 2009, I think it was. It might have been 08. I think it was 09. It was either 08 or 09. They took a loss. But you know what? They had a giant pile of cash, which I'll get to in a minute. And so they didn't have to lay anybody off. While every other company was laying off people and closing down factories, Toyota doubled down. They only laid off their temp work. They did not lay off a single W-2 in North America. Not one. They did not shut down one factory. They did not lay off one person. You know why they could do that? Because of the fourth thing you need to do with money. You need to have a giant pile of cash. You need to have savings and you need to have investment. You need to have money in the bank, and you need to have enough money in the bank that if you do have any other debt, that you have the ability to, now I don't have debt. I have less cash, but I have no debt. You need to be making investments. That's number 4, savings and investments. When I teach personal finance, which is something I also do, if you're interested, financial coaching links down below, then I call that your wealth building fund. That is the money that you set aside every month, either to dollar cost average into cryptocurrency, to put into a 401k, to put into a high yield savings account or a stable coin to generate 5% for your emergency fund, whatever it may be. The fifth thing that you have to do to be successful with money is you have to be generous with it. And the reason that being generous with it is because it makes other people like you. And by the way, it makes God like you. Because a generous heart is a selfless heart. And a selfless heart is attractive to other people, and it's attractive to God. I don't mean sexually attractive. I don't mean romantically attractive. I mean, when you see somebody being generous, you think, man, I want to be friends with that person. And you know what you do? You go up to that person and you introduce yourself to that person. And you say, hey, I'm willing to do business with this person because that person seems to be a good person. That's why people make it out to be like, oh, rich people are all selfish jerks. That's not how they got there. They might be that way now, but they done forgot how they got there, because you have to be generous to get rich. By the way, if you're a Christian, God smiles on that, because it says when you lend to the poor, you lend to God. He appreciates that. You do those 5 things, you'll be successful with money. Now let's roll it back and talk about that Fed comment. The Fed says we're in deep crap. Let me just translate that out of legalese and out of the nonsense the Fed is spreading. What the Fed governors are saying is we are in deep crap. That's what's going on. Does the government live on a written budget? Kind of. But are we actually following that budget, or are there a ton of finances every single year that are going out of the government's coffers that were not budgeted for or are going over budget? The budget that the United States government puts forward, Congress puts forward every year, is a joke. Because first and foremost, it is a net loss every year of about $3 trillion, which violates the third point, which we'll get to in a minute. And because the budget is a joke, then we run into debt. The United States government, unfortunately, though, is simply an electorate that is elected by the people and represents the way that the people live. The United States government is in debt, about $30 trillion? That makes sense. The Americans that put the people in Congress are in debt. A huge amount. And we believe, oh man, I can't live on less than I make. Point number 3. So therefore, what do? Well, I borrow and I go in more debt. I've got a written plan, but my written plan, if I even have one, says that I'm going to bring in $7,000, I'm going to spend $9,000, so I go in $2,000 of debt every year, every month. That's the way the United States government does it. Violates point 2. It's in a giant amount of debt and not doing anything. The debt's not coming down. If the debt's coming down, then fine. All right? I'm not demonizing anybody that's in debt, but work on getting it down. Right? Don't add to it every month. That needs to be moving in the right direction, which the right direction is 0. Live on less than you make. The United States government, gosh, let's go to debt clock. I forget the exact numbers. Brings in, 5 and spends 8 trillion? What is the number? Debt clock has it over here. It changes, obviously, because the government's growing, unfortunately. $1.7 trillion deficit. We're spending $6.5 trillion, bringing in $4.671 trillion in tax revenue. How do you spend $6.5 trillion? How does anybody, even a nation of 330 million people, their government spend $6.5 trillion? That is absurd. That is completely asinine. Interest on debt, $754 billion. This is a personal finance, or in this case, a government finance picture that is completely out of control and needs to have deep cuts. This is ungodly. This is wrong. This will hurt people, and this is unsustainable. And it's because the government is living on far more than they make. They either need to increase tax revenue, which would break the economy, so I'm not recommending that, because you ought to be able to make it work on $4.5 trillion. It's like somebody making 500 grand saying they're living paycheck to paycheck. Brother, you are making plenty of money. It's not an income problem, it's a spending problem. $6.5 trillion being spent every single month, every single year, is a complete joke. There needs to be a balanced budget amendment passed to the United States Constitution that gives 10 years of grace to figure out a way to get it under control. And if it doesn't happen, then there needs to be some kind of legal consequences to the electorate that is violating that constitutional amendment. That is what needs to happen in the United States. And I understand that it will probably take 10 years to get that under control in a way that doesn't absolutely blow up the economy. But there needs to be a constitutional amendment placed in the United States Constitution that fixes that and puts a balanced budget amendment where we're running a profit every year. That's what needs to happen. And the debt needs to be attacked. The entire nation needs to come together and attack the hell out of that debt. And you wonder how that has anything to do with the United States economy. The issue is the federal government believes that they can just go into debt as much as they want, $34 trillion of debt, and because it's backed up by the United States economy, by the United States military, that they are the end. Everybody else who is in debt, well, they have to answer eventually to the United States government if you go back far enough. You know what that is? It's called pride and idolatry. The United States government thinks they're God. It's not going to work that way. It does not work that way. Debt catches up with you as a rule. It is a fact. Even if some of it is owed to yourself. I get that. A lot of that debt is owed to ourselves, which is a complete other joke. And number 5, generosity. There's no generosity in this budget. The United States government isn't being generous. They're entitlements. Somebody's entitled to something, that's not generosity. Where does it say it in here with the entitlements? If you think, by the way, person under the age of 60, if you think Social Security is going to save you, you're wrong. It probably won't even be there when you get to that age. And if it does, it's going to cover maybe $1,700 a month in income. Do not bet on Social Security if you plan on retiring. It will help, hopefully, if it's even there. Hopefully it'll help. I know you paid into it. Social Security has a $26 trillion liability. $633,000 in liabilities per citizen. Unfunded U.S. liabilities, unfunded, they've not been funded yet, is $213 trillion. This, my friends, is a crisis. And I'm glad that the federal government and I'm glad that the Fed realizes that this is a problem. The United States government is still the most powerful government on planet Earth by a very long shot. It would not even be a competition if we Americans would stand up and put ourselves in the proper financial position and then only elect people that would put the United States federal government's economics in the right position. If the American people were not living in $600,000 of debt and having $400,000 of assets, you got a negative net worth. Your financial picture is worse than a homeless guy living under a bypass bridge. That guy's in better shape than you are. If we would get our finances under control as a nation, if we had 100 million people that were debt-free and were living on less than they made, and they were generous, and they were saving, and they were investing, and they were on a written budget, the government would not be in that position. The ship would slowly start to turn, and it might take 30 years to get rid of $35 trillion of debt. That's a lot of money. But we have to change if we want the government to change. In the same way that the charts are the manifestation of the machinations of the traders and the investors, the charts are simply a hive mind collective consciousness of what the traders and the investors are thinking. That is the same thing with the United States federal government. It is simply a reflection of the United States people, which many of you guys and myself are. If we want the government to be out of debt and we want them to be generous, really, literally generous, as in the government, if they wanted to, out of the surplus, out of a profit of $1 trillion a year of tax revenue, if we want to say, hey, look, a hurricane just hit Haiti. Here's $20 billion. Go put your country back together. We'll send some people down there and help. That's the kind of nation that I want to be a part of. I love the United States, but that's the kind of financial policy that I want our nation having, where we are the nation that can be radically generous out of the surplus, not out of $35 trillion of debt. But if we want that to change, then we have to change. Because I will tell you something, either the end times will come or it will take long enough for them to show up that the United States federal government will collapse before it happens. It might be 100 years from now, it might not be in my lifetime, might not be in my kid's lifetime, but down this path, it will lead to the complete and total collapse of the United States government. Eventually. It is unsustainable. And as I said, if you want to bet on the end times will come and Christ will come back in power and glory before that happens, so we don't have to worry about it, then fine, but that is foolishness. Let's get our finances under control and vote for people that will do the same. Because I tell you what, this is wrong, morally wrong, to run a $1.8 trillion deficit and leave that to our children. It is wrong. There's a reason that people my age are blaming boomers for things that they did wrong. I don't really do that because a lot of them weren't responsible for it. But what I will say is if we are going to back policy that leads our government in a $2 trillion a year deficit, I don't care what the government is spending money on. Capitalism will figure it out much better than the government ever will. That is wrong. That's morally, logically, emotionally, from a stance of wisdom, biblically, it is wrong. It is not right to run on that big of a deficit. If you need to run on a deficit every once in a while, because let's say, I don't know, Hurricane Katrina just hit Louisiana, and let's say it's $50 billion to put the whole thing back together. There's a time to run on a deficit. I am not saying that that is not going to happen sometimes. Even Toyota, which has almost a perfect track record, has 1 year where they ran a loss. I'm not saying that you're not going to run a loss sometimes as a government. I am saying to do it every single year for decades on end is wrong. I can't put it any other way. It's completely and utterly immoral. It is wrong. It is nonsense. It will be the death of our nation. And we have got to change ourselves. We have got to change our finances. We have got to change how we believe. We have got to change how we vote. We have got to change what we demand and what we expect from our politicians. We need to expect a balanced budget. We need to push for a balanced budget amendment, not one that collapses the economy, because cutting $1.8 trillion of spending will take a lot of deep cuts. But we as a nation have to get together and we have to say, you know what? If this requires cutting a lot of programs, then what we Christians are going to do is that if that means that somebody that needs government assistance no longer is getting it because the government had to cut that program, then out of the abundance of our own finances, I will go out and I will help that citizen. I will go out and I will help that person that can't afford to eat. I will go out and help that 80-year-old that was relying on Social Security. I will go out of the abundance of my own home's finances and I will help those people. And I will be a good neighbor and I will give to them so that the government can run on a balanced budget. For the government to cut spending, we've got to be more generous. And that's the challenge that most people that argue for a balanced budget amendment don't want to make, because then that means that they got to tell their people that are watching to go and do something about it. I don't care. I don't care if I offend you. I'm going to tell you the truth. Way off topic, but it matters to every one of you. By the way, even if you don't live in the United States, this actually matters even more to you, because not only is the United States impacting your life, if you don't live in the United States, you can't do anything about it anyway, because you can't vote. This impacts every single one of you listening. United States is the single most powerful country on planet Earth. And they've got their finances plumb backwards. Hit the like button if you're enjoying today's video. We're going to read some more chat and then we're going to wrap it out. The politicians being busy making each other look bad. Yeah, in other words, they're busy being children. Isaiah 58. I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to tell you. Here, you want to hear some more? I'm going to give you some more. I'm going to tell you the exact problem with our country right now. I'll tell you the exact issue. I'll tell you exactly what's wrong. Isaiah 58. Where is it? Aha, here we go. Isaiah 58, chapter 9. Then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, Here I am. If thou take away from the midst of thee the yoke, the putting forth of the finger, and speaking vanities, and if thou draw out thy soul to the hungry, and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shall thy light rise in obscurity, and thy darkness shall be as the noonday. And the Lord shall guide thee continually, and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water whose waters fail not. And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations, and thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of the paths to dwell in. And what we have to do first is to put away from us the pointing of the finger and saying it's everybody else's fault, and the speaking of vanities. In other words, the speaking of obscenities and saying, up yours, screw you. That kind of stuff has got to stop. We've got to stop pointing the finger at everybody else. We've got to point it at ourselves and get ourselves right, get the log out of our eye, and live the kind of life that we want our government to live. And then we need to vote for people that do the same, and there will be change. That is a promise. But we've got to start by getting the person in the mirror right. That's where we have to start. We've got to stop pointing the finger at the politicians. It's okay to call them out if they're wrong, but let's not be hypocrites. We've got to stop pointing at them. Stop calling them every name in the book. We've got to stop endorsing politicians that are going to call each other every name in the book. And we've got to start acting right. Crypto SJ is in chat. Good to see you. Jeb for president. I'd never get elected. What I'm saying is unpopular. But I know if I can get enough of you guys on board, then somebody in the future that believes the way I believe might get elected. And by the way I believe is simply the Bible. It's the same book that this country was founded on. Shadrach Frost said, have to jump to a meeting. Very much enjoyed the stream today. God bless everyone in the chat. Love each other as God loves us. Hashtag HODL, hashtag CT2A, hashtag peace. Thank you very much, Shadrach, as you go. I'm okay with a harder lifestyle to get our debt down. Right. And here's the thing. If we're going to say, oh, well, they need to cut this program. They need to cut that program. Well, what about cutting a program that you're a part of? Right? I mean, Everybody says, oh, well, let's cut Social Security. Are you depending on Social Security? We're pointing the finger at that guy. Oh, that guy drawing Social Security, who, by the way, paid into it for 50 years. He's the problem. Is he? Or is the entitlement a problem? Do we need to say, hey, look, Social Security's got 10 more years and then it's done. So you got 10 years to get your finances in order. And we, as the people who are not supposed to turn our nose up at our neighbor, but go out and actually help them, forgot about the generosity part of it. Why are we in so much debt? Well, because the government feels the need to do the generosity for us, but then it turns into an entitlement because of the American people are not generous enough. That's why. Are we willing to get our hands dirty and actually go and help people that now will not have government benefits because the government had to cut spending? That's the way the argument goes. Well, we can't cut government spending because people wouldn't have the benefits that they need to live on. Well, first and foremost, there are people that are using the benefits that probably just need to get off their butt and get a job. However, there are also people that are using it that, like I said, paid into Medicare, not into Medicare, Social Security for 50 years. And to be honest with you, they earned it. There are also people that are on disability they kind of need that. They need the help. They can't stand. They're paralyzed. I get it. Okay, there are people that need help. It is our job, not the government's job. We got this backwards. It is not the government's job to help the people that are in need. It is the people's job to help the people that are in need. Say not unto thy neighbor, go and come again, and tomorrow I will give thee, when thou hast it by thee. Devise not evil against thy neighbor, seeing he dwelleth securely by thee. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 28 and 29 says, say not unto thy neighbor, go and come again, and tomorrow I will give thee, when thou hast it by thee. See that he dwells securely by thee. If you've got an elderly couple that lives next to you and they're relying on Social Security, and you're going to advocate for Social Security to be gotten rid of to make sure the budget can get under control, then what are you going to do to make sure that they're going to be okay if that gets cut? Are you going to get your finances under control? Are you going to be willing to live on 3 less motorcycles so that you can help them? Are we all going to work together on this? Or are we going to keep with the pointing of the fingers and the speaking of the vanities and getting into arguments and saying it's his fault? It's his fault. It's his fault. It ain't my fault. It's their fault. We're going to get exactly, you want to know where we're going to get? We're going to get nowhere like that. That's what we're going to get, is nowhere. Complete nonsense. Manuel said, your God is morally wrong in many things, yet you approve him as a moral authority. Read the Old Testament, hope not to get banned. Oh, I'll never ban you for disagreeing with me. That's totally fine. I would love to know what you mean by that. If you read it, you would get my point. He loves wars and killing and slaves. Don't know why anyone would get an authority morals from that book. Well, there's 3 points there that you make. The first one is that he loves wars and killing slaves. God does not love war. In fact, he speaks vehemently about peace. That being said, he is also a just God. That thou shalt the Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, the king of Israel, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity. To receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity. That's the point of wisdom, is to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity. Christ says that you tithe your spices and your cumin, but you neglect the weightier matters of the law of judgment, mercy, and faith. If you are faithful to the living God, you are under mercy. If you are not faithful to the living God, you are under judgment. But at any moment, through the blood of Christ, you can switch sides. You can go from being under judgment to being under mercy by having faith in the one true God. Loves wars. God waited 600 years to send the Israelites into the land of Canaan because he said that their sin has not yet become grievous enough. I believe that's what you're probably talking about in the book of Joshua, chapter 11. The reason that the Israelites were sent into that land was because the people of that land were worshiping demons and they were sacrificing children, their lives. Their sin was quite great. Slavery. The entire Old Testament story starts with God delivering an entire nation of people out of slavery because he doesn't stand for people being evil and controlling and tyrannical to one another. It's not what he's after. God does not love war. He in fact says in the book of Ezekiel that God does not take pleasure in the death of the wicked. That's what he says. He also says that It also says in John 3:16, probably the most quoted verse of all time, for God so loved the world. The world means the Gentiles. It means the unbeliever. It means the people that don't believe God. It means you, Manuel. I imagine you probably don't follow Yahweh, the God of Israel. It means you. For God so loved the world, including you. That verse was written with you in mind. For God so loved the world, you, that he sent his only begotten Son, that all who should believe should not perish but have everlasting life. He loved you so much, he came and died for you. So much he loves you. He's a just God, and if we don't believe him, we better be careful. But ultimately, his desire is that all should come to him. Something I found is I had a lot of the same questions before I received the gospel. I got all my answers after I believed in him, because his goal is not to convince you. His goal is to have you be in love with him. When you fall in love with Christ, he will give you the answers you're looking for. But he's looking for your faith, and he's looking for your love before he's looking for your understanding. Speaking of the Old Testament, if you read the book of Job, you'll understand quite a bit about that. Press O'Neill said, didn't God kill the firstborn of the Egyptians before freeing the slaves? Being killed for what your parents did is wild. So that's something that you want to keep in mind, right? I can't remember the verse, but there is a verse somewhere in the Bible, I believe it's in the New Testament, where the kind of the idea of the age of accountability, the idea of the age of accountability comes into play. I'm not quite sure that if somebody who's like 6 months old dies, if they're just going to go to hell. I believe that God would likely save that soul because they don't have the brain power to understand the gospel yet. Over that age, there was not a single person in Egypt that was following God. Because if they were following God, they would have put the lamb's blood over the door, and they would have been protected by the Passover. Those that were killed were the people that were enslaving. They were the slave drivers that were lost. They were killed. They were the wicked ones. That was justice. We need to follow God. We have to be very careful. Of course. Manuel said, well, it's a deep subject. Appreciate the non-ban. I will never, ever, ever ban you guys for having questions. I will tell you over and over again. I will preach it from the rooftops. God is not intimidated by your questions. Even your other question, which I will probably get banned from YouTube if I address that, but God is not intimidated by that question either. The one that you asked about getting stoned. He's not intimidated because he's right. Because he's truth. I'm not intimidated by your hard question about the Bible. The Bible says to have a ready answer for all who should have questions. That's always be ready to defend your faith. If I don't have an answer for you, that's my problem, not yours. I need to go back and find it because there is an answer. I've had hard questions for God, and he has always answered. Every single time that I've had a hard question, I have found the answer. But that was not true until after I received the gospel, and it took years on some of those. And sometimes I still have questions, and I have to sit there and I have to really dig and pray, but I find them, and they are there. But it comes on the other side of surrendering your life to him and saying, you're in charge. It's the reason it's so hard to get the gospel into places like Japan where people are so darn logical. It's like, oh, I got it all figured out. It's not a logic problem. It is a relationship. God is not a series of math equations up in the sky. He is a person, and he wants to be in relationship with you. Look around, any direction. Look over there, look over there, look up there, look down there. All that matter, he created that entire universe just so he could be in relationship with you. He made that whole universe just so that he could be in relationship with you, just so you would have somewhere to live. Just so that you would have somewhere to live. That's how much he loves you. By our sin, we've turned from him, but he wants us to come back. The only way to the Father is through the Son, Jesus Christ. I'd be more than happy to talk to any of you guys about the Lord. I do ask that we be respectful of his name in chat, but as long as that's the case, I have no problem at all with your questions. Manuel said, but he gives instructions on how to treat your slaves. Your property is equal to money and how you can beat them as long as they don't die. How is that moral? I'd like to hear the verse on that. I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about there. What I will say is that the Bible does. Something I want you guys to know. People do have this backwards. And it's a lot of times because of things have been taken out of context. God loves humans. And I want to make this very clear. We're already on the subject. I'm already over time. Everybody who was going to tune out is already tuned out. So we're here. I'm going to read it straight from the Word of God itself, so I don't carry his name in vain. Because I want you to have understandings, Manuel. I care about your soul, and I love you. I've never met you. I care about you and I love you and I want you to have answers to these questions because I can tell they're holding you back, but I can tell that something's pulling on your heart because this matters to you and this is important to you. So I'm going to engage with this right now. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. There's the verse right above the financial sovereignty. Right above the financial sovereignty verse. God created man in his own image. There's nothing more valuable in all of creation than God himself. You were created in his image, even if you don't believe in him. You're created in his image, which means you have the most value of anything in all of creation. There is not a single thing in all of creation that is more valuable than you. Not a single thing. Not a single thing in creation that is more valuable than all of you. He loves you. He instructs for us to go and care about the foreigner and the widow and the foreigner and the widow and the orphan and the oppressed. He cares about those that are oppressed. He cares about the poor. He cares about those that are under subjugation. He cares about those that are under tyranny. He cares about those people. And by the way, where there is slavery, God doesn't like that. In the Old Testament, there were times where you would enter into a long-term contract and you say, hey, I'm going to work for you for 10 years. And that was legally binding. And yeah, it was called slavery. And it was generally speaking, a bad thing. Where there is abuse, God hates that. Somebody that uses their authority to beat someone else, he hates that. Hate is the only word in the vocabulary to define God's opinion of that. When you abuse somebody that is below you, God abhors that. To the point that he says, dare any one of you lead one of these little ones astray, you'd be better off with a millstone hung around your neck and dropped into the depths of the sea. You know what that means? That means you'd be better off drowning and dying than leading astray one of these little ones. Who is he talking about? Children. People that are smaller than you and that are weaker than you and that you have the power to take advantage of. It would be better for you to be dropped in the depths of the sea and drown than to abuse somebody who is weaker than you. That's God's opinion of that. That is the inspired word of God. You can go read it for yourselves in the Gospels. That's what God thinks about people, about abusing people that are weaker than you. He hates that. He absolutely despises that. Absolutely despises that. Absolutely despises it. PJ Cornell said, if you come to God with receptivity, humility, and patience, your answer will rise to the surface like a whale breaking the surface of the ocean. That is so true. And that's the promise of God, is that maybe not on this side of heaven, but we will understand things. Some on this side of heaven, some on the next side. But we're not going to understand much of it at all until we believe in him. And the reason for that is because he came to have a relationship before he came to have an explanation. What is the punishment for leaving the religion, Jeb? It's not a punishment. It is an inevitability. Hell is not something that you get sent to, although that's a way that people can look at it. Hell is any time that you are in separation from God. When souls go to hell, and I've heard harrowing stories of people dying, guys. It's a scary thing. God does not take pleasure in the death of the wicked. Let me say that again. God does not take pleasure in the death of the wicked. God does not take pleasure in the death of the wicked. He does not take pleasure in the death of the wicked. It's in the book of Ezekiel. Go read it. God does not take pleasure in the death of the wicked. He does not take pleasure in that. He's a just God. If we don't turn to him and say, God, I want to be in relationship with you, you know what he's going to say? He's going to say, okay, I am a gentleman. I respect you. And so you are free to make your own decision. And if that means you want to turn away from me and turn towards hell, then that is your prerogative. That is your decision, because he created us with free will and the ability to make a choice. Let me say it for like an 8th time. God does not take pleasure in the death of the wicked. It is his will that all would be saved and come to know him through receiving the Lord Jesus Christ. It is his will that every single human being that is ever born would receive the gospel. He would love that, because he wants as many of us to join him in heaven as possible. It's not so much that God sends people to hell, although God does decide our time, because God gives us plenty of time, plenty of chances. But if we turn away from him and we choose not to accept him, then unfortunately, that's what we've chosen. And so I don't want to choose that. I want to choose to love God, not just because I fear hell, but more so because I love him. And I want to spend eternity with him because he's been so good to me. He's so great to me. He's so beautiful. He's so wonderful. He loves me so much. The Bible says we love him because he first loved us. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, he loved you, it says. I'm made in his own image. It says we are our own little gods. We are not God. We're not demons. I'm not saying that, but he says we're our own little God. He wants us to be with him in heaven. He desires that all should be saved. As I said, God is not intimidated by your questions. People always ask questions when they come to the Lord. But as PJ Cornell said, he says, PJ said, if you come to God with receptivity, humility, and patience, your answer will rise to the surface like a whale breaking the surface of the ocean. Yep. So anyway, major rant there, but did want to take that indicator to let you guys, take that moment to let you guys hear about that. So, yeah. I want to give you guys some promises. God does not at all smile on. He hates with vehement hatred the abuse of somebody weaker than the abuser. He hates that. He despises it. Hatred is the only word that I can use to describe his stance on that. He hates the abuse of the weak. He hates it. All right. So good questions. Thank you guys for tuning in. Athletics Dog Lover says, much love, Jeb, from a Muslim brother. Shout out to you, my friend. Love back. So yeah, we'll never be intimidated by questions. That being said, I do expect us to be respectful in chat of everyone, not just the Lord, but of everybody. So if we keep that in mind, feel free. Psalm 139. Aha, Touche is referencing Psalm 139. Psalm 139, verse 14. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. God made you, and it is a wonderful thing when you know that that is a beautiful thing, is what that says. When God made you, and is a beautiful and a wonderful and an incredible thing. He made you in his own image, and because he did that, when you know that, even the fact that you know that you are made in his own image and that you are beautiful, that is a beautiful thing as well. Me and Jeb are the only people in crypto who aren't acting like God doesn't exist. Well, there's a bunch of other people here in chat that are doing it also, but yeah. It's all good, Jeb. Appreciate you. Absolutely. Danny Carney said, Crypto Coffee TA and Hear the Gospel, my new favorite channel. Shout out to all of my Christians, and also shout out to everybody who is not a believer. I still love you. I still love you. I want to lead you in the right way. Forsake not the things that I have told you. But I love you. I love you so much. I love you so much. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me your questions. I am more than happy to answer them. I have answers for you, and if I don't have an answer for you, then the Bible does. All right. All right, we're going to wrap it out. We are 35 minutes over time, but you get me talking about the Bible. You get me talking about finance. You get me going for a while. So anyway, like I said, we're going to wrap it out. Got a lot of stuff to go and work on. I appreciate all of you for tuning in and for listening to my rants. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you're new here, make sure to sign up for CT2A and LuxAlgo, and also check out NordVPN. They're an official sponsor of the channel. If you sign up for NordVPN, you're going to be getting access to some great security software and some virtual private network technology that's going to keep you safe while browsing online. And also make sure to check out our new sponsor, Blowfin. You will be able to find a link to them in the description here in just a minute. I thought I put it in there, but I haven't yet because today's the first day that we're running them. But Blowfin is a newer exchange in the cryptocurrency space that I'm really excited about, that I'm going to be working on and with. So make sure to check them out with the link that I'm about to put in the description box down below. Give me 1 second on that. Here we go. Make sure to check out Blowfin. Boom. It is in the description box now. Awesome. In his own image, referring to the spirit, not the flesh, though, because God is a spirit and they worship him, but worship him in the spirit and truth. Right. The point is that you are valuable because you are made in the image of God. That's the point. All right. Sorry I'm late, but I'm here. Carlos Mejia said, we are about to wrap it out. Sorry, we did go for about a little over 80 minutes today, so you got a long stream to catch up on if you want to watch it. Keep it coming, said, blessings, Jeb. Shout out to all of you guys. We love you very much. Praying for every one of you corporately, and looking forward to seeing how much you guys are going to succeed in your life, and most importantly, coming to know him. Before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.